What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the War Room. Welcome to episode 285 of Cocktails in the War Room. I am your host, Mistress Carrie. Thank you so much for hanging out with me here in the War Room every Tuesday night at 8:30. Something we started doing back on March 14th of 2020. At the beginning of the pandemic, we sat through 80 nights in a row of the craziness. We launched the Mistress Carrie podcast, and then Cocktails in the War Room became the weekly show on Tuesday nights that you know it to be right now. So thank you so much for hanging out with me every Tuesday night. If you're new, welcome to the War Room, the room in my house where all of my military memorabilia from my trips overseas is, my family's military memorabilia from generations of service, and where the bar is, which is why I decided during the pandemic to start hanging out in here, because it was necessary. So if you are new to the War Room, please let the War Room family, as they have dubbed themselves, know that this is your first time hanging out with us in the comments, and also let us know where you're watching from. And I want to let you know that you can watch the show live on Twitch, on my official YouTube channel, on my Instagram, and on my Facebook. But if you're commenting on Instagram, I can only see your Instagram handle, not your actual name, like I can on Facebook and Twitch and stuff like that. So sometimes I don't know who you are because your Instagram handle is weird. If you're new to the War Room, you may also notice that there is a co-host here in the War Room every Tuesday night. The War Room family knows her already, but her name is Wednesday. That's where you can find her on Instagram at Wednesday the Goth Pug. And well, we bribe her to come in here every night with us and hang out with us. And I bribe her with cookies. And when they're gone, then she leaves us because, well, that's how she is. And she only comes back during mail call towards the end of the show in case somebody bribed her with things. Get down, show everybody what a good girl you can be. Kevin is here. Hello, everybody from Pennsylvania. On my way back to Kentucky, he says. Jason and Denise are here. Jessica and Max. First timer in Foxborough, Max says. Thanks for hanging out with us. We got to talk about the Metallica show in a minute. If you were at one and or both of the shows last weekend. Let's see. Christine is joining us. Eric is here. Tracy and David are here too. So if you're new to the War Room, basically we get together every Tuesday night to talk about what's going on in the world, what's going on in music. Most specifically, I let you guys know what's going on with the Mistress Carrie podcast, new events that are coming up. Tonight, I'm going to give you a chance to win free Slipknot tickets to see them at the Xfinity Center coming up this Thursday night. August 15th. So if you want to go see Slipknot, don't leave the War Room too early because I have got tickets coming up. Also, more event information is on the way. The ice cream launch, I got details on what's going on with that as well. Still recovering from Metallica, says Brett. Yeah, last week, my voice was about 3% from being totally gone, which is why we weren't here in the War Room last week because 7 days a week of being on the air, the podcast, hosting events, and then spending 2 nights in the rain and the excessive heat in Foxborough at Gillette screaming at Metallica. It took a toll on the voice. So I apologize for not being here last week. What's up, Carol, joining us? I was at both nights, says Bish, and it was fucking awesome. Could not agree more. Still soaked from Metallica, says Max. Yeah, trust me. Night number 2, very wet. We got to talk about Ice Nine Kills too, who kind of got hosed last Sunday night. Denise says, I was at both Metallica too. It was awesome. Even with the delay on Sunday. Yeah, the shows were great. I actually brought some pictures. Wednesday, stop being so fresh. My goodness. Back up. All right, so if you were or were not at Metallica, first of all, Metallica makes posters and collectible merch from every show that they do on this tour. These were the 2 posters. Wednesday, stop. No. That they released for both nights. What you may or may not have realized, because they were up on the big screens around the stage, they also sold them as posters and t-shirts. These 2 things actually fit together And I wanted to show you guys this because somebody from the band's management actually told me this. So the posters actually fit together. And if you put the suns together, you'll notice in the background that it is Gillette Stadium. You see the lighthouse in night number 1 and the rest of the stadium in night number 2. Metallica always does a really good job of doing like custom posters and graphics, but I wanted to make sure you guys got to see those. And if you were able to get the t-shirts or the posters, that you knew that they actually fit together. I got a chance to meet Metallica's whiskey distiller, Rob Dietrich, who we had here in the War Room during the height of the pandemic. You'll remember we did a blackened American whiskey tasting, but I actually finally got to meet him. He was walking by me like in the middle of the stadium and nobody realized who he was. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, "Hey, Rob." And he was like, "Mistress Carrie." So it was very cool that we finally got a chance to see each other. And also these are the actual printouts of the set list from both shows. And you'll notice the cues, the pyro cues, when Lars changed his drum set. These pictures for the set list are actually up on Facebook, so you can get a better look at them. But it tells the guys when there's going to be pyro, flames, all of that stuff. And it also shows you the breaks when the guys can go under the stage, when they need to bring up Lars's other drum set, because he had 4 different drum sets throughout the show. David says, "Carrie, Wednesday gets it from you." I learned it from watching you, Mom. I learned it from watching you. Max says, "I made it to the museum too. Wish I went. Loved that poster," says Brendan. Tom says, "What's up, kids? What's going on?" With pants on. Yes, we all have pants on. If you're new to the War Room, we will address the pants situation later. But during the pandemic, there was always a question about whether or not there was pants being worn here in the War Room or in MCHQ or any of those things. Brett says, "Pantera was so good, but the sound sucked." I think it depended on where you were. And that is one of the difficulties with having a show in the round, having multiple vocal mics, multiple drum sets. It makes the sound so much more difficult. Where I was, which was right off the floor in the 100 sections, the sound was fantastic. They sounded amazing. You could hear everything. It was mixed really, really well. Lars's drum set sounded really well. So Max says that Lars is so high maintenance. Well, it was so that everybody in the stadium got a look at. They had 4 different vocal mics for James. Like, they did a really good job, I thought anyway, of really making sure that everyone in the stadium got a great view of the show. I really liked the way that they did the video screens. Even people that were way, way up in the nosebleeds in the upper 300 sections had a really good view of everything and could see everything. I was surprised that they didn't use the giant jumbotrons in the end zones of Gillette Stadium. That was a little bit of a surprise for me because those are usable. Taylor Swift used them. And she uses those big screens in all of the stadium shows that she does. The Dallas Cowboys, AT&T Stadium, those massive jumbotrons. She uses them all, but I heard that it's an extra fee in the venue and that it's not cheap. And Mr. Kraft loves her so much, so maybe he threw in the screens as a bonus. Max says the floor was not the best. That makes sense. You know, when it's in the round, it's a lot more difficult. The same way that the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, because they weren't stationary in a stadium, I think they had a lot more technical issues because it wasn't a controlled environment. They were doing miles of things along the Seine. The athletes were on boats. They had multiple stages. There was just a lot going on, whereas the closing ceremonies were in the stadium and they had a lot less technical issues because they were able to control it better. Fewer camera angles, fewer microphones. I can't imagine what it's like to be the sound guy of Metallica on a normal night. Never mind 4 drum sets, 4 mics for James. Actually, I think they had more than 4 vocal mics. All of the background vocal mics, all the cameras. There was just a lot. There was a lot less pyro too. And I think it's because it's a lot harder in the round, and for obvious reasons with Metallica, to make sure you're standing in the right place. And James still struggles with getting burned in Montreal all those years ago on the Guns N' Roses tour. So technically it's a lot harder to manage a show in the round, especially the way that the guys from Metallica did it with the crowd in the pit in the middle of the stage, because otherwise you would have way more production space underneath the stage to be able to do more. But I loved the show. I thought it was great. I thought the guys in Metallica did a really good job with both set lists of giving people representation of all of their favorite albums and really kind of splitting the hits between the two shows because it's a no repeat weekend. Although I did ask on Facebook, did people like set number 1 on Friday night better or set number 2 on Sunday night better? And set number 2 on Sunday night actually got more votes. So Nick says, saw you at Metallica, should have went to the stage and partied with them. They don't really party the way that they used to. They were out and about in Boston last Saturday night, though. It was James's birthday. Kirk Hammett showed up at the Cheap Trick show that was for 617 Rocks at the MGM Music Hall with Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills. And the guy's sons were actually playing at the Brighton Music Hall. So there were a lot of Metallica sightings around Boston over the weekend. And the other bands, the guys from Pantera came into town early. They were rehearsing at the Paradise for days before the Friday night show. And they released like a 7-minute video of them celebrating Rex's 60th birthday. They got him a Tyrannosaurus Rex at the Paradise. They put a whole video up, which I posted on my Facebook page if you want to see that as well. The fire near Lars scared me, said Arthur. Yeah, it's a lot to manage that many moving parts. And normally they have a monitor mix on the side of the stage when they have those big stages in the end zone. And so the people that are mixing the sound that the guys are hearing in their in-ears, he's not anywhere around them. So there's a lot more hand gestures. It's a lot more technically complicated. But I thought they did a really good job. Was it perfect? No, but I thought they did a really, really good job. Jason says, getting laid off from my job. So if there is anyone that is a supervisor or a manager at any warehouse, please reach out. 7 years warehouse experience. I'm 3 years experienced on a forklift. Jason, I would be shocked if you have a hard time finding a job, especially with warehouse experience and forklift operator experience, because there are so many people looking for people in those kinds of jobs, especially with how much people are relying on goods and services being shipped directly to them. Warehouses are so busy all the time. I have full confidence that you are going to find a job, but I'm sorry you got laid off. Rex is 60. Dang, says Travis. Yeah, if you didn't see the video that I posted up on my Facebook page a few days ago, it was like the whole behind the scenes of their rehearsal. Pantera did like 2 or 3 days of rehearsal at the Paradise in secret because they haven't played with Metallica in like over a month because the tour was in Europe earlier this spring. And the shows at Foxborough were the first shows of this last leg of the North American tour date. So James says, saw you at Metallica. Arthur says, it was put together awesome. I was there for both nights and it was my first time seeing Metallica and loved it. I'm glad you got to see them both nights and got to hear so many of the songs that you wanted to hear, because obviously if they played 2.5 hours just one night, you wouldn't have been able to hear all of the hits that you wanted to hear. I was waiting for Blackened because that is one of my favorite Metallica songs of all time. And I was so glad that they played it night number 2. Loved that the boys played Ride the Lightning. That is my favorite. Yeah, Bish, there's so many good songs. And I thought they did a really good job of like mixing it up. You know that these new albums are a huge priority for the band. So they want to be able to play those new songs. There were other people that said, that they could have shortened up the gaps in between songs and fit more songs in. But I'm going to stick up for the band a little bit and say, especially Lars, playing drums for Metallica for 2.5 hours every night, especially in the heat of Friday night, had to be exhausting. And so having those breaks for him to be able to go under the stage, cool off, rest, hydrate. As these bands get older, that is going to be more and more necessary all the time, because it's just not going to be possible for Lars to be in his 70s playing drums for Metallica if he's not able to rest in between songs. And bands, you guys hear me talk about it on the podcast all the time, structure set lists based on the guitar tuning, because the guitarists are always having to change guitars. The singer, and what songs have more higher register notes, which ones have more screaming, which ones are more up-tempo, because they want to be able to stagger those up-tempo songs and put the ballads in there to give the drummer a break. So there's a lot of science that goes into the set list. It also, they have big pyro songs, and they don't want to put all of those together for the pyro. There's just a lot that goes into making a set list. And I thought the guys from Metallica did a really good job of spreading the wealth, using the pyro when it was really necessary, using the fire when it was really necessary, and sprinkling in old and new songs. I thought they did a really, really good job. But I wanted to make sure that you guys saw the tour artwork from the 2 shows at Gillette, because people collect these posters, and they usually only make, for a stadium show like that, maybe 5,000 of them. And you have to get there really early to get them. But I wanted to make sure that you guys know that they fit together, which was something I didn't realize until somebody from the band's management team told me that. So, all right, let's see. I have a ton of stuff that I want to talk to you guys about. There's so much news, so many things going on. So first of all, let me remind you that it's still amazing to go skydiving at this time of year. So if you have ever wanted to go skydiving, if it's something that's on your bucket list, if it's something that someone you love has always wanted to do, and they've got a birthday, an anniversary, graduation, they just turned 18, they're getting ready to go off to college, and you want to do something special with them as a bonding experience before they go, a Mistress Carrie deal to take advantage of, and this is only good until the end of the jumping season, which is usually right around Halloween, is that you can get $40 off a tandem skydive at Jumptown in Orange, Massachusetts. You can get all the details on what you need to do, qualifications, who can jump, who can't, how heavy you can be, what you should wear, all of that if you go to jumptown.com. If you go to make a reservation, and they're open 7 days a week, book it with the code Mistress Carrie, and they'll take $40 off your skydive. So just go to jumptown.com. I've been jumping there for decades. It's an amazing place. The view is beautiful. This Sunday, we were supposed to be launching the new Mistress Carrie Boozy Ice Cream Black and Blue at A La Mode in Thompson, Connecticut. My good friend, the Ice Cream Alchemist, came up with this very specific ice cream flavor for me that brings together blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, some of my favorite things like tequila and limoncello with cinnamon and honey. And we were going to donate all of the profits to Project New Hope. And we have had an alchemist down. So Dave, the Ice Cream Alchemist, is injured. He hurt his foot. He's dealing with an infection. The doctor told him to stay off of his feet. And all this week leading up to Sunday, he was going to go into mass production of the ice cream so we would have enough pints of the ice cream to be able to sell it at the event on Sunday. And it is just not possible for us to be able to pull this event off. So as of right now, it is postponed. I do not know when we're going to be able to reschedule. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it before winter. I don't have any more details other than I'm super bummed. The Alchemist is bummed. The guys at Project New Hope are really bummed out as well. And I was so looking forward to this event on Sunday. And we talked over the weekend, and logistically, it's just not possible for us to be able to pull this event off this Sunday. So I'm really, really bummed out. So I wanted to make sure that if you RSVP'd to the event on Facebook, if you have seen the event information on the website, those places have been updated. But if you do know people that were planning on going that maybe aren't here in the War Room tonight, reach out to your friends, our fellow family members here in the War Room, and make sure that they know that the ice cream event on Sunday is postponed. Bish says, sorry, I won't be able to join you guys for the ice cream event. Bish, none of us are going to be able to join any of us for the ice cream event. So it is officially postponed. And as soon as I get more details and as soon as I get a rescheduled date, I will let you know. I want to remind you guys of all of the places that you can listen to me on the radio. The newest station, middays on 98 Rock, Charleston's best rock in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm on every weekday from 10 to 3. You can go to my98rock.com or download the 98 Rock app, and you can listen anywhere. You can also listen to me every weekday from 3 to 7 on 100 FM The Pike in Worcester, Massachusetts. And you can download the Pike app and stream the station. 98 Rock is a mix of like classic and like newer rock music. The Pike has a little bit of newer music, but a lot of classic rock music. I'm going to be live this Thursday afternoon from Polar Park in Worcester from 3 to 7 at the Woo Sox game. Former Bruins broadcaster Jack Edwards is going to be joining me. So that's going to be this Thursday. Come by the Sherwood Diner. I will be there Thursday afternoon starting at 3 o'clock. Rockfest is coming up at the end of the month at Indian Ranch, so I'll see you for that as well. And all this week, the Pike Concert Season Pass giveaways are tickets to go to Rockfest at Indian Ranch on the 31st. So if you don't have your tickets yet, you can win them all this week. You can go to pikefm.com if you want to get the link to buy them, but this is coming up fast. And also, please save the date for Saturday night, September 28th. Details on why I want you to save that date are coming up, but just save the date for now. We're going to make an announcement really, really soon, but this is going to be a really good time. So save the date, Saturday night, September 28th, an event with the Pike that you are not going to want to miss. And you can also hear me every weekday afternoon from 3 to 7 on 106.3 The Bone in Portland, Maine. You can go to 1063thebone.com and download the free Bone app. You can stream the station off the website. If you like newer, harder rock music, this is the station for you. A lot of new bands, a lot of really hard rock and heavy metal music on this station. Really, really fun. And they just announced their Deck the Halls with Daughtry holiday show. It's happening Wednesday, December 11th at the State Theater in Portland with special guests Sleep Theory and Devour the Day. And I am going to be there to host it that night. So if you are going to be anywhere up and around the greater Portland, Maine area, or you're just a big Daughtry fan, or you want to come and hang out with me, these tickets are on sale right now. And you can go to 1063thebone.com, click the link, and you can get them. Tonight, I wanted to let you guys know that no cocktail recipe tonight because today is National Prosecco Day. And so you guys know that Prosecco is my jam. So rather than make a drink, I just thought we would cheers. I apologize for not being here last week. Thanks to everybody that sent all the well wishes. I was losing my voice. I did not get sick. I did get exposed to COVID, but I was fine. I tested every other day. I didn't get it, but the voice was rough. So National Prosecco Day. It's also National Filet Mignon Day. So if you're fancy, oh yeah, much needed. And because we didn't have the show last week, we have got to recap a couple of episodes of the podcast. So episode 217 came out 2 weeks ago now. Slash coming back on the show right before he headlined the Leader Bank Pavilion on August 1st on the Serpents Festival tour. This interview got recorded like a day or two before his stepdaughter died. So obviously he canceled some shows to grieve with his wife and the family, attend the services, all of those things. And when the interview came out, I think there were a lot of people that were thinking that Slash was doing an interview like shortly after his stepdaughter passed away, but the interview had been recorded a few days before. So Slash was my guest on episode 217. So if you heard the episode, you heard that Slash once got paid as a babysitter of a 7-year-old girl with a 1930s era acoustic guitar, which he still has. He talked about getting exposed to the blues at a young age and all of the blues oriented rock in England as a kid because he was born in England. And then when they moved back to the States, how his grandmother schooled him on where bands like the Stones and Led Zeppelin actually got those blues influences. And she introduced him to B.B. King. So he talks a lot about Orgy of the Damned, his blues album, and some of the artists that he recorded with. The story he told about Beth Hart and her performance on Orgy of the Damned is great. I don't want to ruin it for you, but I love having Slash on the show because he's just such a great interview. You know, people that have been doing interviews for decades, they just get it. They understand answering yes or no questions isn't entertaining, and they just roll with it. You know, I've known these guys a long time. I've interviewed them so many times. And so they don't get upset when I kind of go off the rails a little bit and ask them weird questions. We had a really great conversation about The Shining, and Slash just goes with it. We talked about the rainy Fenway show for Guns N' Roses last fall, which I couldn't believe he didn't put two and two together with the lyrics of Slither. That really surprised me. But last week, episode 218 came out. Talk about bookending shredders on the show. Zakk Wylde checked in the day before Pantera played opening up for Metallica when he was at his hotel on his way to rehearsal at the Paradise, but he didn't tell me that's where rehearsal was. But Zakk and I talked a lot about Dimebag and Vinny's legacy. The podcast actually got a lot of national press because it was the first time that Zakk actually said, I am not in Pantera. Pantera is Rex and Phil and Dime and Vinny. This is a celebration of Pantera, which is something that I guess he had not done before. And so the interview got passed around like crazy online. I can always tell when the podcast gets linked in like magazine articles, because when I log on in the morning and I get all these alerts from all of the people listening to the podcast, I was like, okay, somebody obviously published the podcast. And a few different places did. So I obviously want to thank everybody, Metal Hammer, Blabbermouth, people that are always keeping an eye on the podcast, publishing the podcast, putting embedded players into the articles to make it easier for people to find the interviews. Jessica said, did he ever mention Lazy Osbourne, or do you mean Ozzy Osbourne? I asked him about Ozzy's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I asked Zakk about Spinal Tap and the stories about how there were some things in Spinal Tap based on Black Sabbath, according to a story that Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath told Zakk. Really interesting. So if you haven't listened to episode 218 of the podcast, there's a lot of Spinal Tap talk in there as well. Bish says, I just love Zakk Wylde. I love how he calls Sharon mom, says Brett. He's always called Ozzy dad or the boss, and he always calls Sharon either mom or Mrs. O. He has always been incredibly respectful of his relationship within the Osbourne, not only family, but business, right? And that Ozzy was super supportive of Zakk when Zakk decided to go out on his own and start Black Label Society. Obviously, Ozzy has sung on Black Label songs in the past. Zakk has always kind of been there whenever Ozzy needed him to write songs, to perform live. Zakk and I talked about playing on the helmet at Gillette Stadium after the Pats won the Super Bowl. But he has such respect and reverence for the Osbournes that it doesn't matter if he's Ozzy's guitar player or not. He loves Ozzy and is very aware of, the start of his career. I mean, imagine being 18 years old and getting the guitar playing job for Ozzy Osbourne. What? Just crazy. So a lot of great stuff in the interview with Zakk, a lot of great stuff in the interview with Slash. Both of these episodes are available if you haven't heard them, and they are not these guys' first appearance on the podcast. They've both been on before. So anytime a guest comes back, I always make sure in the show notes that I link all of their other appearances on the show so that you can go back and listen, because a lot of the time in a newer interview, we'll reference the last time we talked. And so then you can go back and get caught up on all of the old interviews as well. Bish says, I would have loved him to have had a talking part in the movie Rockstar. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that was Myles Kennedy in Rockstar as well. Like hitting those crazy notes, like that's Myles Kennedy. Let's see. Tracy says Zach is family to them. Absolutely. He's known them for over 30 years now. It's insane when you think about Zach's like life, because like him and Barbara Ann, like Zach and his wife have been together since junior high, I think. And the same thing with Rita and Dimebag Darrell. They were sweethearts going back to like the 6th grade or something, which is something really insane when you think about it, that like they were their first loves, and that Dime and Zach ended up becoming best friends, and that their significant others were there through high school, through their adolescence, through the birth of their career. We're there through all of it. I'll never forget the first time I saw the Crazy Babies video on Headbangers Ball, says Debbie. Exactly. Jason asking how my mom is. A lot of people asking how mom is. She's doing okay. She is not better. A couple weeks ago, I talked to you guys. For anybody that doesn't know, that's new to the War Room, my mom suffers from dementia and Alzheimer's and took a spill last month and broke her hip. She's been in physical therapy. She is declining, unfortunately, and is not showing a lot of interest in wanting to walk anymore, which has been really hard, because the surgery and everything that she went through was to try and preserve not only her quality of life, but her mobility and her freedom of movement. And we were warned by doctors that when a dementia patient falls and breaks a hip, that the morbidity percentages are pretty brutal. And so my sister and I, who are in charge of my mother's care, have been very aware and have been made very aware of the reality of my mom's situation. We have been navigating her illness for years now. And, we're doing everything we can to make her life as good as possible, to make her quality of life as good as possible, to respect her dignity, her wishes. But it's really hard. But she's doing okay. She has really good days some days, some not so great days some days, but it feels like every time you get used to the status quo, the new normal, that something changes that normal. And it's hard. Brett says, my grandmother fell and never wanted to walk again. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's really strange that someone that has, full-blown dementia and Alzheimer's, who finds it really difficult to make new memories, somehow, somewhere was able to kind of learn and remember that getting up and walking is scary and dangerous. And so they start not wanting to do it anymore. And it's really weird the way that the human brain works. Donna says, can you bring Wednesday there now? Would that help her to try and walk? Donna, I can bring Wednesday. I don't think it's going to help my mom walk. She seems really comfortable in a wheelchair. She can stand, which is super helpful, getting her dressed and bathing her and moving her from the bed to the wheelchair and stuff like that. But I don't think Wednesday is going to motivate her to walk. If anything, Wednesday is going to motivate her to stay in bed and snuggle, which is what they usually do when they're together anyway. Thank you guys for all of the love on that. I really appreciate that. Okay, so I want to let you guys know who's on the podcast this week, because it does have something to do with the Metallica show. So first of all, a bonus episode came out over the weekend featuring Ed Kowalczyk from Live and Robert DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots. So I got a last minute call that said that the two of them were doing really quick, kind of rapid fire interviews to talk about the Jubilee Tour, which celebrates the 30th anniversary of Stone Temple Pilots' Purple album and the 30th anniversary of Live's album Throwing Copper. And I was like, yes, absolutely. I would love to have those guys on the show. So in the block of time that I got with them, we talked about all of the amazing music that came out in 1994, including Purple, including Throwing Copper, including Nirvana's Unplugged, Vitology, Amorica from the Black Crowes, definitely Maybe from Oasis. The list of albums, Super Unknown from Soundgarden, I believe Jar of Flies came out in 94 from Alice in Chains. The Toadies Rubberneck. I'm trying to think of all of the albums that I have been talking about. 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral. There are just so many unbelievable albums. And so we talked about what made 1994 special. So this is a really quick bonus episode, but it's available now. And at midnight, episode 219 of the Mistress Carrie podcast welcomes back Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills, who was on episode 7. He came back on episode 170 when it was announced that Ice Nine Kills was going on tour with Metallica. This interview, unfortunately, was recorded right before their show on Sunday night and right before they got rained out from their performance. So there is a very quick part at the beginning of the interview talking about how excited they were to play at home at Gillette Stadium, which is super heartbreaking. And then we spent a lot of time talking about Silver Scream Con, which is coming to the DCU Center September 13th, 14th, and 15th. And that includes the show that they just announced on September 14th at the Palladium Outdoors, which is Ice Nine Kills, In This Moment, Avatar, and TX2. That show is now on sale. That is going to be part of Silver Scream Con. You can buy separate tickets just for the concert, or you can buy the deluxe ticket pack for Silver Scream Con and get concert tickets with that, or you can do a little bit of everything. But Silver Scream Con is going to be at the DCU Center September 13th through the 15th, and I am going to have a booth at Silver Scream Con at the DCU Center. So if you are into horror movies, if you're into gore, if you're into metal, you're going to end up at the DCU Center that weekend. And yes, I am going to have a booth at Silver Scream Con this year, which I'm really, really excited about. So episode 219, Spencer was in his childhood bedroom at his mom's house when we Zoomed this interview. And so he kind of gave me a little bit of a tour of his childhood bedroom. But we talked a lot about horror movies. We talked a lot about the international tour dates with Metallica. We talked about future plans for Ice Nine Kills. There's a lot going on. And of course, Spencer is going to have a booth at Silver Scream Con. The band's going to be playing this Saturday night at the Palladium Outdoors. So there is a lot going on with Ice Nine Kills and the podcast. Let's see. Debbie says, I love Throwing Copper. That long ago. Oh my God, I still have the original CD. Matter of fact, on the bonus episode, Ed Kowalczyk talks about CDs and how, like, in 1994, it was kind of like the last hurrah before kind of Napster kicked in later in the 90s. Travis says, very cool that you can do the interview remote out of the studio. Yeah, I'm able to do a lot of these interviews remote. And, you know, a lot of people ask me, wait, how do you get the guests that you get on the podcast? Part of how I get them is that I have relationships with these artists that go back decades. But the other part is a lot of just radio DJs try to book interviews around when it's convenient for them, when they can get them live on the air. And with me, I will do the interview whenever it's convenient for the artist. I interviewed Jonathan Davis from Korn at 3:00 in the morning on the East Coast because that's when he was up and awake, and it was midnight in California. That's when he wanted to talk. So I was like, absolutely. He wants to talk at 3 a.m. on the East Coast. We're talking at 3 a.m. on the East Coast. So I really try to be as accommodating as I can. And when I set these interviews up, other than a last minute, hey, could you take 10 minutes to talk to these guys really quick? But when I do these interviews, I always tell them, like, look, I want at least a half an hour if I can have it, because I really want to be able to ask them a lot of questions and not just when's the album coming out, when's the tour going out on the road. I want to talk about that stuff too, but there's a lot of other stuff that I want to talk to them about, and I need the time. And so I'm willing to be more flexible with when we do the interview in exchange for me getting more time with the artist. And it's worked out great so far. So Bish says kids don't know what CDs are. Some of them do, and kids now know what vinyl is and what cassettes are all over again because so many newer bands are making them. So it's just crazy. Brett says, still waiting for videos of the podcast. Well, here's the deal. So first of all, not every interview that I do, I'm allowed to record the video. Some of the interviews that I do, the cameras aren't even allowed to be on. And so until I get to the point where I'm willing to turn down interviews if they don't let me turn the cameras on and record the video, which, like, if you go on Joe Rogan's podcast, like, you have to go to him in Austin and you have to agree to be videotaped and whatever, like, but it's Rogan. Same thing with Stern, right? I still get told, well, the artist doesn't want the cameras on, or the artist doesn't want the video recorded. So until I can get to the point where A, I get video from every interview, and B, that I can produce the video to look as good as the audio sounds, I'm not going to release the videos. But it is in the long-term plan. So I'm hoping to be able to do that at some point. So there you go. Okay, so we got a lot to cover still. So let me... So episode 219 goes live at midnight tonight. Don't forget, if you subscribe to the podcast, you get the weekly interviews on Wednesdays. You get the bonus interviews whenever they show up. And then Monday through Friday, you get the sit rep, rock news, music headlines, entertainment updates. It's about 5 minutes long, and it runs down everything. Movies, music videos, tour announcements, new albums, songs. And if you want to listen to the podcast, you can do it pretty much everywhere. Whatever app you listen to podcasts on, you can find the Mistress Carrie podcast. Just search Mistress Carrie podcast. And when you see this artwork right here, you know you're in the right spot. You can also listen to the audio on YouTube, which, by the way, is the fastest growing podcast outlet, and not for video podcasts, for audio podcasts. And if none of those are going to work for you, just go to mistresscarrie.com, pick the interview that you want to listen to, and hit play. I made it so easy for people that are not technologically advanced so that you never miss an interview. National Prosecco Day is delicious. We're still holding strong at 149 countries that are listening to the Mistress Carrie podcast. We have not gotten to 150 countries yet. Someday we are going to get there. It's just not today. If you're celebrating your birthday today on August 13th, you're sharing it with Danny Bonaducci from the Partridge Family and also Dan Fogelberg. And I was so excited that today fell on a Tuesday, because we have had several conversations about what's the best concert you have ever been to. And I have long told you guys, and I have long answered that question by saying Woodstock 94 as an entity is by far the best concert I have ever gone to. The bands, the experience, all of it were amazing. So Woodstock 94 kicked off 30 years ago tonight. Like 30 years ago tonight, I was watching Aerosmith on stage at Woodstock. Yes, the rainy Woodstock. So I did some things. First of all, I dug into the t-shirt archive. This is my Woodstock 94 t-shirt. I have several. But one of the other things that I did, hey, Wednesday. was I dug into my extensive archive, because you guys know by now that I save everything. One of the things that I saved from Woodstock 94, we knew it was going to rain before we went. We camped the whole time, slept in tents, backpacked in, did the whole thing. It's the only time in my life I've ever hitchhiked. But we brought a lot of plastic bags to be able to keep stuff dry. So I was able to bring back souvenirs from Woodstock, and they're still in great shape because they never got wet. One of the things I have that I wanted to show you guys is this is the official merchandise booklet that Wednesday, that they gave you when you entered Woodstock 94. So that you could, this is before the internet, so that you could shop and know what you wanted before you went up to the merchandise booths to go and get your stuff. So this is the official merchandise booklet from 94. And I wanted to show you some of the merch that you could get and some of the prices, which I thought was really funny. So the jackets were the most expensive things. And you can see, like, this jacket was like $279. This was a leather jacket that was like, I think $350. The t-shirt that I'm wearing right now is right here, and it was $18.95. But these were all of the different, I have this t-shirt as well, still have it, that has the rainbow logos on it, still have that one. Kind of wish I bought this one, but I didn't. They had like sports themed jerseys. They also had, this is the accessories. They had Frisbees. I have this hat. I wish I got this one, but I didn't. I got this one. I think they were out of the other one. Still have it. They had tapestries. They had like all of these different like little accessory things. They also had the tie-dyes. This is the official merch booklet. And then the poster right here, I have this poster. And it's in plastic. I never got it framed. I never hung it up anywhere, but I still have it. So I wanted to show you. And look, you can order by mail. So if you didn't want to buy your merch at Woodstock 94, you took this home, or you called the toll-free 800 number and talked to an operator, and you could order merch on the telephone, or fill out the merch order with your sizes, total it all up, and send a check, and they would send you the merch in the mail. So that was part of the reason why I wanted to show you guys that, is that, and then on the back, they also had the denim shirts, tie-dyes. I believe I have this shirt too. I spent a lot of money on merch at Woodstock 94 because this was right after I graduated from college. It was that summer. And it was an absolute blast. I think I used some of my graduation money to pay for this trip. I went with 6 other friends. We rented a 15-passenger van that was used as like a school bus. And we drove out. We parked in one of the parking lots and carried everything into the show, got on a bus, parked our van in a field like 30 miles away from Woodstock, got on a bus and was driven into Woodstock and lived out of our backpacks for 3 days in the mud. Tents. We brought food in with us. And we actually lived pretty well. We planned really well for the weather. And I credit the rainy experience of Woodstock 94 with making me really prepared for my experience at Woodstock 99, even though the weather was completely opposite. That 99 was just super sunny and hot all the time. And Woodstock 94, up until the very last night, poured rain the whole time. So everything was muddy and cold, which is, you know, if you go and look at the footage of like Green Day having the sod fight right after Dookie came out, 9 Inch Nails jumping in the mud puddles right after the Downward Spiral came out. It was just an amazing, amazing show. Jonathan says those prices would be inflated today. Yes, 100%. That is $100 in 2024 money. So the other thing that I wanted to show you guys, I got this back in my backpack from Woodstock 94 without being wet. And this is the official booklet and program from Woodstock 94. And so I wanted to show you some of the advertisements that are really funny. Continental Airways was a sponsor. So this is the guide, the chapter breakdown, the history of Woodstock 69, Gibson guitars, because Aerosmith was one of the biggest bands on the lineup, took out a whole thing. The producers of Woodstock released a whole statement that you can see there. I'm just going to breeze through this because there's a lot of stuff. But I really wanted to show this to you guys because, Woodstock, the next generation. Can't believe this was 30 years ago tonight, guys. Like, talk about a trip. So this is the site map of Woodstock 94. And it showed you where the stages were. So the north and the south stages, unlike 99, where they put the stages on two opposite ends of a runway. So it took like a mile and a half in the blistering heat to get from one stage to the other. The Woodstock stages were kind of next to each other so that it was a little bit easier to go back and forth. It was the north stage and the south stage. I'm trying to find... So we decided, if you look at this map all the way, right? So the bus loading was here. So what happened was when people got to Woodstock, they came in through these front gates and obviously way out. I mean, there was 500,000 people crammed in here. The stages were right in front of them. So a lot of people walked in and camped. And you guys know that obviously once ground grass gets wet and 500,000 people walk on it, it started to get muddy. It kept raining. So this just turned into mud. All of this was mud. When we went in, knowing it was going to rain, we opted to go all the way over here and we camped here. Now, the edges of Woodstock 94, this was neighborhood. And so because there was no way to walk through to go anywhere, we didn't have as much pass-through traffic. So this field didn't erode into mud the way that this field did. So it was better. There were fewer people using these porta potties, which was great. But this whole neighborhood, these people were all going to the Packy and buying truckloads of cases of beer and selling them over the fence. They were selling snacks and food over the fence. So when we woke up the morning after Woodstock was over, the sun was out. We were still camping here. I have pictures. I tried to find my pictures. I have them. They're actual like 4x6 developed photographs. This just looked like a bomb went off because everybody left their tents. Everybody left everything. Rather than walk all the way through here, we heard that the bus lines were 8 to 12 hours. People were waiting to get on buses to get driven back the 30 miles to where they parked. We opted instead to go through the fence into these neighborhoods, and we hitchhiked, and we paid $10 a person to get in the bed of a stranger's pickup truck, and they drove us 30 miles for $10 a head back to our van. The only time I've ever hitchhiked in my life. But I wanted to show you guys this map. This is why when I say Woodstock 94 was amazing, if we had camped in here, it would have been a disaster, but we didn't, and that was like the best decision we made. Without being wet, also the same feeling women get with leaving Keith's place. Oh my God. I still have the original CD edition of the concert, Lou, so do I. It doesn't show the mud people. That was so much fun. Yet it does show the naked people though. There were a lot of those. A lot of naked people. All right, let me show you some of the other stuff. I'm trying to find the set times because I believe they are in this book. So here's the bands. Aerosmith, the Allman Brothers, Arrested Development, The Band, Blind Melon, Candlebox, Johnny Cash, Jimmy Cliff's All-Star Reggae Jam, Joe Cocker, Collective Soul, The Cranberries, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Sheryl Crow, Cypress Hill, Bob Dylan, Melissa Etheridge, Peter Gabriel, Green Day, Jackal, James, King's X, Live, Metallica, Used to Endure, The Neville Brothers, Nine Inch Nails, Orleans, Porno for Pyros, Primus, The Red Hot Chili Peppers, The Rollins Band, Salt and Peppa, Santana, The Spin Doctors, Traffic, and The Violent Femmes. When I tell you it was the best concert I've ever been to, I am not kidding. It was so amazing. It was just such an absolute blast. My sister went with me, and some of my best friends in the world were there with me as well, and we're still friends to this day. And just so much fun. We had so much fun. So each artist got a page in the booklet that was like a bio, and then there is like all the production stuff. There was the poster and the advertisement for the soundtrack album on the back. And there was a lot of advertising in here, but when you walked in, they gave you, and I don't know where that is, a schedule of the North and South stages. And so what we would do is, we would look at it and go, all right, do we want to be here or do we want to be there? And sometimes they were really difficult. Do we want to go to that stage or this stage? But we did a lot of walking so that we could catch every artist that we wanted to catch. And it was awesome. And then this was the back. So Woodstock 94, 30 years ago tonight. So I wanted to show you guys some of the stuff that I brought back. I have a ton of stuff, but I have to go through it all. And someday I'm going to get it all shadow boxed and framed. Still have my original ticket. Still have the parking pass that was hanging in the van. All of it. It was just so good. I didn't forget Keith's birthday yet. I just took the graphics off the screen so I could show you the thing. So Woodstock 94, 30 years ago tonight, you share your birthday with Dan Fogelberg and Danny Bonaducci. So if today's your birthday, happy birthday to everybody that was at Woodstock 94 with me. Happy anniversary. Happy unbirthday, Keith. Brett says the Red Hot Chili Peppers with socks on their jocks and the light bulbs on their heads. Don't forget the light bulbs on their heads. It was so good. All right, if you guys want to go see Slipknot, a Cocktails in the War Room exclusive contest, Slipknot Thursday night celebrating their 25th anniversary at the Xfinity Center in Mansfield. Orbit Culture, part of the lineup. The band's saying they're not playing anything that wasn't recorded before 1999. The show is going to be insane for the old school fans. If you would like a free pair of Slipknot tickets for Thursday night at the Xfinity Center, go to mistresscarrie.com. In the top right-hand corner, click Message the Studio. Put Slipknot in the subject. Make sure that I have your full name, your email address. Put Slipknot in the subject and send me a message straight through the website right now. This is first come, first serve. I will give out as many pairs of tickets as I have, try to hook up as many people as possible. But do this right now. If you want to go see Slipknot Thursday night for free, I have got a block of tickets that I will give away right now. Go to mistresscarrie.com, click the Message the Studio button, put Slipknot in the subject line. Make sure I have your name and your email address. And when the show's over tonight, I will hook people up with tickets every once in a while. Not just the backstage pass holders get tickets. I like to hook you guys up with tickets too. There is big Linkin Park news coming. They're celebrating their 25th anniversary next year. There are posts hinting the guys in Linkin Park are starting to post more. There is a big 25th anniversary announcement coming from Linkin Park really, really soon. I believe it is going to include headlining festivals next summer in North America. And we may or may not find out soon who's going to be singing with them or how they're going to pull off that tribute. If they're going to bring in guest vocalist friends of the band, or if they're going to just bring in a vocalist. kind of like how Static X did with Zero. That's just someone that it's just not about them, but it's just about doing the music. So big Linkin Park music is coming. And then obviously we haven't gotten together here in the War Room since the announcement that Aerosmith, speaking of 30 years ago tonight, I was watching Aerosmith at Woodstock 94, that Aerosmith has retired from touring. And nobody in the band has made individual statements yet. The band made this joint statement, if you didn't know already, but basically Steven Tyler did permanent damage to his vocal cords, and it is just not possible for the guys from Aerosmith to tour or perform live anymore. Somebody did release 4K video of the last Aerosmith show, which was in upstate New York last September. And the last thing that the band did on stage was wheel out a giant birthday cake because it was the night before Joe Perry's birthday. And they sang happy birthday to Joe Perry on stage at the end of the show. So that video is now up on YouTube if you want to check that out. But I just can't believe we live in a world where Aerosmith doesn't tour anymore. Speaking of Aerosmith's tour, the Peace Out Farewell Tour at the Black Crowes on New Year's Eve canceled. So if you have tickets, get your refunds. The Black Keys show in November canceled as well. Incubus coming up at the end of the month. Weezer and the Flaming Lips and Dinosaur Jr. Jelly Roll, 21 Pilots, Jeff Lynne's ELO. Lots of shows headed to the TD Garden. Silver Scream Con, we already talked about it, at the DCU Center coming up in September. And Iron Maiden is going to be at the DCU Center in November as well. Bish, your birthday's next Friday. So we'll get together next Tuesday to be able to wish you a happy birthday. Or Bish, is your birthday this Friday? I need clarification in the comments, please. Can we please raise a glass to Aerosmith and their legendary career, 50 plus years. I think they are one of the bands I've seen the most. Aerosmith, the Black Crowes, Bon Jovi, Metallica, Tool, Godsmack, obviously, bands that I think I've seen the most. Cheers to Aerosmith. Let's see. Bish says, of all the places that I could find out about Aerosmith, it was at Metallica. All of us found out at the same time. It was terrible. Big night live at the Garden. The Warning coming up September 13th. Cold Chamber, Dirty Honey on my birthday. Asking Alexandria, Palais Royale, The Marvelous Three, and Lit. A lot of rock bands are starting to play Big Night Live, which is right down at the Garden in Boston. The Xfinity Center has got Slipknot, ZZ Top, Lynyrd Skynyrd, 30 Seconds to Mars. Creed is next week with Three Doors Down and Finger 11. Cage the Elephant, STP and Live, Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie, and Korn with Gojira. So the summer outdoor shows at the Xfinity Center are continuing. Godsmack, Nothing More in Flat Black at Mohegan, just in time for Halloween. Seven Dust at the Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom, the middle of September. This Adrian Belew, Steve Vai, Danny Carey, this Beat Tour, they've got a bunch of shows coming to the area. This one's at the Schubert on October 11th, except at the Tupelo Music Hall. That's going to be on September 14th, and at the Wilbur on September 15th. Also the 16th and the 21st. They're going to be all over New England. Duran Duran at Mohegan Sun on October 25th, and the SNHU Arena on November 2nd. They're doing that whole macabre tour around Halloween. They're actually playing at Madison Square Garden on Halloween night. Leader Bank Pavilion, Bush's Loaded Greatest Hits Tour on the 24th with Candlebox and Jerry Cantrell. Falling in Reverse with Dance Gavin Dance, Black Veil Brides, Tech Nine. That's happening at the Leader Bank Pavilion September 9th, and Jane's Addiction coming up September 13th. Pearl Jam. So far, so good at Fenway. They survived Green Day. They survived Blink-182, survived the Foos. Pearl Jam has got 2 shows coming up next month at Fenway. Also at the Palladium, this is the show I was talking about with Spencer Charnas. that they just announced the Saturday night in the middle of Silver Scream Con. They couldn't announce it until after the Metallica show, so it got announced last Monday. Ice Nine Kills, In This Moment, Avatar, and TX2. It's going to be at the Palladium outdoors. Tickets are on sale now. Set It Off, New Year's Day, From Ashes to New, October 27th. The NoFX finale tour is at Campanelli Stadium, put on by Mass Concerts on August 31st and September 1st. And the New England Hardcore and Metal Festival is returning to the Palladium on September 21st and September 22nd. Roadrunner's got Newfound Glory, Kaleo, The Hive, Skillet, and Seether. This is with Tim Montana and Royal Lynn. The Red Clay Strays, Dayseeker, and also Rise Against. Those are all on Guest Street in Brighton at Roadrunner. And the MGM Music Hall at Fenway, Taking Back Sunday, Widespread Panic, Kings of Leon, Sisters of Mercy, Queens of the Stone Age, and the 2 Sting shows. So lots of shows, and they're already getting announced for next year. So if you think 2025 is not going to be a busy concert year, it's going to be insane. Bad Flower at the House of Blues, Rival Sons and Clutch, Airborne Toxic Event, Blues Traveler, Hatebreed with Carcass and Harm's Way and Crypta, Testament, The Theory of a Dead Man Unplugged tour is at the House of Blues November 12th, Steel Panther on November 23rd. The Paradise Rock Club, Crown the Empire, that's coming up this weekend. Lemonheads next month. Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses in November, and also Gwar coming up in November. City Winery Boston, John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band coming up on the 17th. John 5 from Motley Crue, sounds weird to say that. 2 shows at City Winery September 1st, and also Richie Kotzen headed to City Winery on October 15th. No other shows at the stage at Suffolk Downs to report right now, but they did just rehab that entire venue. Creed's Human Clay Deluxe Edition reissue is coming out this Friday for new releases. Dinosaur Jr.'s vinyl reissue of Farm comes out. Foster the People, Paradise State of Mind comes out. And Post Malone's country album comes out this Friday called F1 Trillion. All right, it's time for mail call. So I got this in the mail this week. Speaking of last weekend's shows, last Saturday night, the Cheap Trick show at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway was the annual benefit concert for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, known as 617 Rocks. Mary Rose from 617 Rocks and Barry Feingold, who is the brainchild behind this event, sent me a little thank you for being involved once again this year. Thank you so much for your continued support of 617 Rocks. Hoping to work together again in 2025. So I wanted to show you what they sent. It was like wax sealed, like a ribbon around it. And it's this little wooden box, which is super cool. And it's handmade gourmet chocolate. And this is where you can order it from. There you go. And they sent me this amazing box of chocolates that I may have already opened, but I only tried one because I wanted to be able to show you guys how beautiful these chocolates are. Look at the little teddy bears in there. How cool is that? Last year, they sent me really beautiful flowers. They always send, look at these little mice. I thought they were teddy bears, but they're mice with a little tail. How cute. So I wanted to be able to show you guys how pretty they were. They always send really, really beautiful thank you gifts. They have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute with these concerts. 3 Days Grace was the entertainment last year. Godsmack the year before. This year it was Cheap Trick. Hey. That's not very nice, Wednesday. Ooh, and there's 2 layers in there. Ooh, that was good. Try the white chocolate one. Delicious. So, thank you to Barry Feingold. Thank you to Mary Rose from 617 Rocks. This is something that came out of COVID. Barry Feingold called me years ago, right after AAF got sold and was like, I want to do a benefit show. I want to work with you on it. Will you help me? And I said, yes. And they've raised, I think, almost $500,000 already in 3 years, which is pretty spectacular. So, all right, want to remind you, it's the middle of summer, sun's out, guns out. The tank tops are almost gone. So if you want to get your tank top, the inventory on the website has been updated. So there are a lot of colors and sizes that are already gone. A lot of these got bought at the Hair Fest. So if you've been like, oh, I want to get one of Carrie's tank tops and you just haven't, get them before they're all gone. The colors and sizes that are available on the website are the only ones that we have left. I'll probably get them again next year, but I'm not going to order tank tops for the winter. I want to focus on other things this winter. So if you don't have your tank tops yet, go on the website and order your tank tops before the end of the summer. If you don't have a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass yet, you can get them on patreon.com/Mistress Carrie, or just click the Patreon logo at mistresscarrie.com. We do an exclusive live stream once a month. You know who's going to be on the podcast first. When I travel, I take you with me. You get early access to event information. You also get concert giveaway tickets. So Backstage Pass holders have access to Slipknot tickets, Gaslight Anthem tickets, Cage the Elephant tickets, Falling in Reverse tickets, and Megadeth tickets. So if you don't have a Backstage Pass yet, get a Backstage Pass. Just go to patreon.com/Mistress Carrie. A reminder of all the places you can find me on social and all of the different radio stations that you can listen to me on. And yes, they all have apps so that you can listen from anywhere. Wednesday, you can't have the chocolate. You can't have the chocolate. She always comes back when we do mail call because she thinks that there's something in there for her, but you can't, doggies can't have chocolate. I'm sorry, but doggies can't have chocolate. It's not good for you. We don't want to make the doggy sicky, right? Right? Oh, I love the ear rubs. Oh. Yeah. Right? Are you a good girl? Are you the prettiest girl in the whole wide world? Yes. But you still can't have chocolate. I'm sorry. Eat the whole damn box. There's 2 layers of chocolate in there. This thing is actually quite heavy. It's dense. So, no, I'm not going to be eating Wednesday, show your toys. I'm not going to be eating the whole damn box. It's not going to happen. And you can't help because it's not good for you. That's a little treat from Mummy. I also want to remind you guys before I let you go to join the Mistress Carrie Veterans Rock Group on Facebook. It is a group for anyone that is interested in veterans events, veterans organizations, veterans initiatives. If you are a veteran, it's a great place to learn about organizations that are offering help and support, veteran-owned businesses, a place where you can go to network and also ask for help when it comes to navigating the systems. If you're a civilian and you just want to be helpful to veterans and you don't know how, you are looking to be a patron at a veteran-owned business, you want to go to events, you want to volunteer, you have questions about the veterans in your life, anybody that is at all interested in veterans activities, organizations, nonprofits, events, all of that stuff, this is why I created this group. It is on Facebook, Mistress Carrie's Veterans Rock Group. Anybody can join. Please share this group with the veterans in your life. Please share it on your personal social media pages. I really want to be able to build up this group for the ability to be able to galvanize the war room the way that we do when we get together on Tuesday nights, to be able to really help organizations and events get the word out when ballot initiatives that affect veterans go up for vote. I want to be able to get the facts out about these things, and for veterans to be able to find resources and help that they need, and for the 97% of the population that is not a veteran, but that wants to support veterans, to have it be a place that they can go to learn how to do that. So if you have not joined the Veterans Rock Group on Facebook, please, please, please do that and encourage the people that you love and the veterans in your life to do it as well. Put a chocolate in your coffee in the morning. It is so good. Oh, Louise, I have done that. So good. Friday, we are escorting the Run for the Fallen through Mass to Vermont and New Hampshire. Make sure that's the kind of stuff you got to post up on this group. That's the whole reason it's up there. Jessica says, I say eat the whole box of chocolates. Lou says, hey, I meant to ask about that. I think the group was infiltrated by a bunch of dirty girls. Lou, I get tipped off when dirty girls infiltrate the page and they get kicked out and banned. So I can't stop them from trying to get into the group, but once they start posting, it's pretty easy to get them banned out of the group. So it's a constant battle trying to keep people from either posting political crap, which is not allowed in there either. The only political stuff would be to get information out about legislation that is going to affect veterans. But when it comes to election stuff, all of that is not what this group is for. This group is for people on both sides of the aisle, independents. It is for people that just want to do good when it comes to veterans in this country. And I do not want it to become a partisan thing because our veterans are not political pawns and should never be treated that way. So this group is for everyone. Let's see. Hey, Carrie, the author of The Rifle coming to Foxborough to the Boyden Library. Oh, yeah. Andy Biggs. If you have not read those books yet, they're a great read. They're a really easy read because each chapter is a different veteran. So you can read a chapter, put it down, pick the book up a couple weeks later, and it's not like you're trying to remember, a plot line through a whole novel. It's a really, really well done set of books. So if you haven't read Andy Biggio's Rifle books yet, definitely check them out. Jonathan says, do the lighted skulls look cool? The purple LED skulls that I got in the War Room a couple weeks ago, they look so cool. And I can't wait to use them in the front lawn around Fezzik when I decorate for Halloween. I cannot wait. They're going to be awesome. Keith says, just let me know. I will discipline all of the dirty girls. Keith, that's all you, dude. I don't have time in my day to discipline all the dirty girls that try to infiltrate my page. There's too many of them. All right, guys, couple of reminders. Reminder number 1. Episode 219 of the Mistress Carrie podcast goes live at midnight tonight, featuring Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills. Don't forget about the bonus episode with Ed Kowalczyk from Live and Robert DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots. And also, if you want to go and see Slipknot on their 20th anniversary tour, go to mistresscarrie.com right now. Click the message the studio button, put Slipknot in the subject, make sure I have your full name and your email address. First come, first serve. As soon as the show gets done tonight, I'm going to start sending out free pairs of Slipknot tickets. So get in there now. War Room family, I love being able to send you guys to shows as often as possible. This show is coming up on Thursday night. All right, guys, that's it. Episode 286 next week. Episode 219 of the podcast goes live at midnight tonight. I appreciate you guys understanding me taking last week off to rest the voice. Happy 30th anniversary to Woodstock 94, and cheers to Aerosmith for an amazing career. Thank you for so many wonderful memories, both on stage and in the studio. Aerosmith was the first rock band I ever interviewed as a radio DJ, like 3 or 4 weeks after I started on the air at WAAF as a full-time night jock. I interviewed Joe Perry and Steven Tyler. If that's not a way to start a career, I don't know what is. So cheers to you guys. Thank you to Aerosmith. Happy 30th anniversary to Woodstock. Still the greatest show I've ever seen. Good night, Wednesday. I'll see you guys next week. Good night.